right, people. We'll be doing it today in this way that we'll actually start with a Yoga Nidra. And so the class might be a little bit longer than 75 minutes. I hope that's okay. Probably closer to 90 minutes. But I'll see how I go. But I wanted to start with Yoga Nidra. I have still the springtime theme going through my sequences and my own explorations, the springtime and the wood element. So those who've been in the spring series, you kind of been on the journey with me, and it kind of continues. And Yoga Nidra is translated as yogic sleep, but it actually, you can also, depending on how you guide it, how I guide it, and what visualizations I bring in, Yoga Nidra can also be used to kind of like a espresso type of a thing that kind of wakes you up. It doesn't always have to be something that puts you to sleep. But it is an evening time, so I'll do a short version here. Basically, we'll just do kind of the body scan part of the Yoga Nidra, and then we'll come into our yin sequence and our somatic sequence. But I'll send you a recording of the full Yoga Nidra that you can then use maybe in the morning time or in your lunch break or something. So maybe this one is not to be used before going to sleep, because I'll kind of be feeding off this energy of spring and new beginnings and heading out and taking a step into kind of towards your vision or your dream type of a thing. So that said, for the practice, there'll be again a little bit of gliding and sliding in our somatic part. So I like to be on a blanket rather than a sticky mat, but maybe your sticky mat is not super sticky, so you'll be fine. But if you have a blanket handy and spreading it out so that there's going to be a little bit of rolling so that you're not kind of, you can use more space. If you have a bolster, you can have it handy. There's going to be a twist where you can use a bolster, but if you don't have one, you'll be fine. You can also very well do it without. And then I also have a blanket for the head. We'll be doing a lot of stuff lying on the back, and so sometimes having something that you can quickly put under your head could be handy, and maybe you even use it right away in your Yoga Nidra. So first you come to relaxation. So setting it up, and if you fall asleep, you'll get a recording of this, so you'll get to use it at another time. But as I said, I'll do about 10-15 minutes will be this part. So make it comfortable. If you did have a bolster or pillow, you might use it under your knees. If you have something for under your head, I think you'd enjoy that. And then cover yourself up so that you're definitely warm. And I'll give you a bit of a moment here to kind of set it all up. And as I said, this is a very short version of the Nidra. Basically, we'll just kind of use our awareness as if like a light or warmth that'll travel through the body. So we kind of waking our body up by traveling through the interior space. So I see you guys starting to settle. Just take a moment to scan, see if you need anything else to feel more comfortable. Maybe you want to cover your eyes with something, eye pillow or shawl. And so Yoga Nidra, it's, as I said, it's often translated as yogic sleep, but it really invites us to drop into these deeper states of relaxation where we are also able to access deeper states of consciousness. So sometimes it's actually, you can think of Yoga Nidra as a sort of awakening, which really kind of aligns with our spring theme, with the rebirth and awakening that's happening in the nature. So that's how I'll kind of think of it here. And it can also be a path to realizing our true essence, our true nature, and our interconnectedness with all of life. And so the intention of this particular Nidra right now is to welcome the wisdom and the energy of springtime and to support new beginnings, to support this sense of renewal. Renewal, whether it's our internal or this external renewal that's happening in nature. And so I welcome you here. I welcome you to the practice of Nidra. That first step is to kind of make any adjustments so that you feel that you don't need to hold yourself still, but that stillness feels natural and comfortable and easeful, so there's no forcing. And it is in this stillness that we are able to listen and hear our own depth. And so you might take a moment to kind of become aware of the space that is around you and the sounds. So sounds that are coming further away. And then slowly starting to draw your kind of hearing sense closer and closer. So the sounds that coming closer, my voice, and then more like coming inward. And letting yourself really begin to sense the shape and the weight of the body, but also then now the kind of the interior of the body. And as the body is still, begin to sense the movement that is still present. So we can sense the movement of the breath, of course, the flow and the rhythm of the breathing. But the more and more we dropping there's, maybe you can also start to sense like a certain aliveness, a pulsation. So within this stillness, there's movement. Whether you sense it as breath or as energy, as sensation. And then I want to give here a moment also for you to set your sankalpa, which can be translated as a wish or resolve, intention, prayer. And the way I love to do it is to simply bring awareness to the heart space and simply invoking a state of listening. So if an intention arises, let it be like a seed that you're planting. Give it a moment here, because we really don't want to force it or go up into our heads to bring something out from there. I would really love for that intention to arise naturally. And so maybe simply staying in this receptive space of listening is enough. And as I said, mainly we'll do in this Nidra, this body scanning part as we move the awareness around the body. What I invite you to kind of experiment with is start to sense your awareness as light or warmth, maybe even an image of a rising sun or spring blossoms opening. So as I name a body part, see what works best for you. What can you relate to? So light or warmth or rising sun or an image of a spring blossom. So it's as if the awareness starts to kind of shine throughout the body, awakening and revitalizing, bringing this glow and warmth through the whole interior of the body. And so let us bring this awareness, this image, to the crown of the head. So you're going to use what works for you. Crown of the head. This light of awareness, crown of the head, and then traveling to the space between the eyebrows, down to the space between your two collarbones, feeling the softness of the throat, the light, warmth, blossoming between the two collarbones. And then over to the right shoulder. Let this light awareness shine down along the right arm to the elbow, to the wrist. Imagine the waking of the fingers, the thumb, index, middle, ring, and little finger. And then this dawning light is shining back up through the arm, so through the wrist, through the elbow, into the shoulder, and back between the collarbones. And then moving over, awareness moves over to the left shoulder, down through the left arm, left elbow and wrist, waking up the fingers in your left hand, so the thumb, index, middle, ring, and little finger. And how again, however you visualize this dawning light, this shining inside the left wrist and elbow and shoulder, back between the two collarbones. Letting the light awareness travel down, breastbone behind the breastbone, over to the left breast and chest, and then back to the center, and then over to the right breast and chest, and again back at the center. The warmth, the light, the blossoming, the glow of awareness travels further down behind the navel center, pausing there for a breath. And then moving down behind the pubic bone. And then over to the right hip. So we can wake up, awaken the right leg. So down along the right thigh into the right knee and ankle and foot. Waking up your toes, the big toe, fourth and fifth toe. The light of awareness travels back up along the leg. So again, the ankle, the knee, the hip, and back to that space behind the pubic bone. And then taking that imagery, that inner feel of awakening to the left side, the left hip, down along the left leg, knee, and ankle and foot. Waking up your toes, the big toe on the left side, the second, third, fourth, and fifth toe. Traveling back up, light of awareness from the foot to the ankle, to the knee, to the hip, back to the center, so that behind the pubic bone. Feeling your whole lower body, kind of like illuminated, or maybe again it's warmth, awareness, light. And then we'll travel back up, so moving back, pausing at the navel center, and again there might be an image, sun rising, or simply a sense of warmth or light. Traveling back to the center of your breastbone. Again, a small pause. And then to the throat center, that soft spot between the two collarbones. To their eyebrow center. And then awareness back at the crown of the head. The crown of the head. And then letting yourself sense the whole body. So all of those points, those blossoming points of light, now connected, the whole body. And getting this sense of the whole body resting, but there's this certain inner aliveness. Maybe even connecting that to your breath, so as you exhale, sense how the body rests deeply, even more deeply with your exhale. But then feel the qualities of the inhale, feel into that rising that filling. And so there's these two qualities. There's this awakeness, awareness, like dawn. That's the quality of your awareness, the quality of your mind. And then the body completely relaxed, at ease and calm. And so similarly, as the breath is moving between these two qualities, exhale, body rests more. Inhale, there's more awakeness, awareness. Take a moment and see if you can hold these two qualities of awareness present at the same time. Resting and aware. Almost like holding the quality of the night and then the light of dawn is rising. And just for another couple of breaths, feel how the awareness of both of these qualities can be felt at the same time. A calm, abiding, alive presence. A sense of inner wakefulness, a sense of calm aliveness, a pulsating presence, a sense of kind of like a mindful spontaneity. And for another couple of breaths, just let yourself kind of zip in these qualities, relax into this space. And if there's any guidance that arises in any form, be open to it, but we're not searching or looking for anything. Simply to be here like this is enough. And then you could gently, simply feel your breath rising. So a little bit more of awareness coming to your inhalation. So feel that breath without forcing it. Let it get a little bit deeper. So again, feel the quality, that inhale representing the springtime, representing the young energy rising. But it doesn't have to be forced. So natural movement of the ribs to the sides, to the back, a little bit more upwards. So letting that breath rise all the way up to the collarbones. And then a soft, steady exhale out. And then if you want to take a little moment to wiggle your toes and your fingers, if you want to come back to the heart space for a moment to just remember your sankalpa, or again, simply come back to a moment of listening to an intention that you want to bring to the rest of the practice. And then we'll stay on the back for our movements from here, but if you want to, for a moment, to bring the knees in, if you feel that that would be helpful, or if you have that bolster under your knees, you might just kind of use your legs to push it to the sides. And then I'll straighten my legs and we'll do a bunch of movements now for the right side. And what I'll do is I'll kind of let my legs flop, my legs go comfortably wide, And I'm going to start to press away through the right heel. So I'll lift the toes a little bit up towards the ceiling, and then as if there's a button on the foot end of my blanket, and I'm going to press it with the right heel, and then I'm going to relax it. So what you'll notice is a little bit of a sliding of the right hip down and the left hip up, and then relaxing that. So see if you can find it's not a big movement. My right side is lengthening and left side is squeezing. It's a movement for your sacrum, but also for your psoas. And so we'll start with this, pressing away through the right heel, and that could be your inhale, and then relaxing on the exhale. And you could stay with this movement, or you could bring your hands, or especially the right hand, so we'll do the right side, so both hands or right hand into a cactus arm position. So when the right heel is pressing downward, the right arm slides upward. And then when you return back with the right heel, the right elbow slides back to that cactus arm position. Adding the arm is optional, and that arm could slide into any angle. So if bringing it straight up doesn't work for your shoulders, slide it a little bit diagonally. The whole point in the somatic movement is to keep the movements really pleasant and soft. So start to feel like what works for you. And again, I'll do a couple of more with this. So the right side is lengthening. The right side of my sacrum and hip is sliding down. But I'm also stretching into the right ribs and the right lung and the waistline. So our gallbladder line here connected to the wood element. And I'll go one more like this. And I like to inhale when there's this reach, and I'm directing that inhale to the right side of the body. And then next time when you're back at center, I'm going to let the hands come, both hands out from the shoulders, resting on the ground, and I'm stepping the right foot onto the mat. So this movement we've done quite a lot if you've been coming. So right foot is on the mat, left leg is straight. I'm going to drop the right knee in, so it comes into that internal rotation. I'm pressing the big toe side of the foot onto the mat to lift the right hip and kind of rolling over onto that left side, and then coming back. So it doesn't have to begin. You could start with a smaller movement, and it's almost again like that knee is trying to move towards the foot end of my blanket or my mat. So once more, I'm feeling this a little bit in the lower back. I'm feeling it in front of that right hip sideline, and I'm letting my right arm be just really heavy, right shoulder, right arm really heavy. What you might want to add is the rolling of the head to the opposite side. So when the lower back and hips turn to the right, turn to the left, then the head rolls to the right. So do the opposite side where the knee is going, and then coming back to the center. Again, just finding a pace and a rhythm that's slow enough for you to feel. And again, I like to move on an inhale and return on an exhale, but it's not set in stone, so you could also try the opposite. And I'll do a few more, pressing that foot down, letting the head roll, slowly coming back to the center. And one more like this, and then we'll change it just a little bit. So next time when you're on your back, I'm going to slide the left foot onto the mat as well. And I'll, my feet are a bit wider than the hips, and I'll take my right arm a little bit higher up. So not shoulder height, I'm going to bring it a little bit higher. The knees are going to drop to the left again, so I'll stay with that same direction. Knees going to drop to the left, and then I'm as if again I want to press that right knee towards the back of the mat, and that movement, so similar movement like we did. I'm pressing the big toe side of the foot down, knee pressing away from the hip, and then the arm reaching towards the front side of the mat, and then everything rolls back. So a little bit similar to what we just did with one leg straight, but it has a little bit of a different flavoring. And again, it's a super good one for lower back release, for your psoas, so that you'll feel in the front of that right hip. And the head here can just really rock kind of naturally, organically. Maybe it doesn't move, maybe maybe you're still gonna roll it over towards the right to see what feels more comfortable. Can you slow it down? And then what I'll start to slowly experiment with is, as I roll to the left side, press down through the inner right leg. If I let it, I could start to roll towards the left a little bit. And so at first I'm just going to come to kind of the left side body and then roll back onto the back. And you can play with that. You could stay on your back, or you could roll a bit more, let yourself curl onto that left side and then rolling back onto your back. So part of this sequence is also to invite a bit of curiosity and play. So you can just play with this in your own body. It's not a movement pattern that is kind of prescribed. It's actually meant for you to just feel into the movement yourself and find different patterns. And then next time when I'm rolling, I'm going to roll onto that left side. So I'll roll over and I'll bring the right knee and I'll rest it on top of the left knee. So I'm on my left side. And this might be where you might want a blanket under your head to see how it feels, what feels more comfortable. I'll take a moment here, and then I'll move that top knee, that right knee. So this movement will be a little bit less about twisting and more about the psoas. So I could bring that right knee up towards the chest, but what I'll do is I'll keep the toes on the mat, the right toes on the mat. So I'll move it a little bit beyond that bottom foot, and then I'll slide the right knee up, but I'm going to try to keep kind of the sole of the foot on the mat. So it's going to come up at a bit of an angle. And then I'm going to slide it back behind. And back behind could be straight leg or could be bent knee. For me on the right side, when I do the bent knee, my knee doesn't like it, but your knees are different. So I'm going to keep it straight. So I'm going to slide it in. And then I'm going to slide it back, either bent leg back or straight leg back. And it could be an exhale when it slides in. And it could be an inhale when it slides back. You could add an arm, so you could, when the leg slides back, the arm could slide diagonally across. So there's like a straight line from the foot to the arm. So I'm reaching into the kind of the corner of the blanket with the arm, and then the elbow kind of comes in when the knee comes in. And so I'll do a couple of more like this. And then one last one, leg reaching back, arm possibly diagonally. And then resting the right knee on top of the left leg once more. Take a moment. Feel the left side of the body on the ground. Feel that right hip. And then I'll finish on this side, twisting movement again, but starting from the upper body. So it's with the top hand can roll up. So I'm going to start to circle the right hand up. And that circling is going to roll me onto my back. And then I'll circle the hand, same circle up above, back. what I like to do is, before taking the hand up, I'll reach the right hand forward. So I'll curl towards the ground a little bit, and then I'll curl open. And as I'll curl back, I'll again have this moment where the right hand is reaching beyond the left hand. So now I'm initiating this rolling movement from the upper back. So I'm curling into a twist from the shoulders, but I'm going to let my sacrum and my hips gently move as well. I'll go one more round. Opening and then curling back in. And then next time when I begin to open, I'll step my right foot again a little bit back behind. So when I open, as the arm opens back, the right knee opens up towards the ceiling, and that rolls me onto the back, and I'll straighten the legs and I bring the arms down to the sides. And so we did a bunch of this rolling stuff to one side. We did lower back and upper back. And we did some movement for the right psoas. So let yourself feel the right side of the body. Again, the light of awareness is traveling through the right side, comparing those sensations to the left side, and just notice if there's any difference how the right side settles towards the ground versus how the left side settles towards the ground. Give it another moment. So like in yin poses, we take our rebound. So here we're taking a rebound moment also in the somatic. And then you might need to change how your legs are a bit. I need to bring them just a tiny bit more closer as I start to reach the left heel towards the back of the mat, so away from the head, so as if I want to press something with the left heel. And I'm going to really let the hips move, so the right hip is going to hike up a little bit as the left hip hikes down. I'll take a few rounds with just the legs, so I can kind of get acquainted and to feel my sacrum, to feel my lower back. Again, just making it really comfortable. Then you can stay with just the leg, or you could bring the arms into that cactus shape. And so as the left heel reaches, the right arm reaches up and then comes back to elbow at shoulder height. So choose what works. Feel into that lengthening, that rising, that stretching, that opening on the left side, and maybe infuse that with an inhale. So bringing that breath that it also expands and opens together into the movement. And maybe on this side we can kind of find a better flow as you know where we're going. I'll do one more with this. And then I'll pause for a moment when the hips are back more in line, and I'll let the arms come and rest out from the shoulders on either side, and I'll step the left foot onto the mat. So in a way we keep exploring the sideline of the body, but we're adding that little pelvic twist. So I'm going to let the left knee drop towards the midline or across the midline, pressing that foot onto the ground, and that movement of pressing down is going to lift my left bum off the mat, left side of the lower back. And so just experiment, doesn't have to be a lot, doesn't have to be your maximum. Remember finding comfortable ranges. And so allowing this rocking movement to really start to kind of very gently open and juice up our tissues. The option was to include the head that moves the opposite way, so then you have this nice kind of craniosacral rhythm when your sacrum is moving, lower back is twisting one way, and the neck is gently rotating the opposite way. Experiment with your own breath. It could be that it's the inhale, that's the movement, and exhale returns us. And then I'll change it a little bit. As the hips come down, I'll slide the right foot onto the mat, and I'll bring the left hand up above so it reaches towards the top of the mat. As the knees drop, I'm gonna lengthen the left knee away, so the action is foot pressing down, knee lengthening away from the hip, and that's gonna start to rotate the pelvis a bit more over to the right and then coming back to the center. And my arm stays up the whole time. So I'm just using that arm up to kind of emphasize the sideline. And as the knee reaches towards the back, I'm going to reach through the fingers a little bit more towards the front. And again, if it feels good, you could, at the height of that curling, you could pause for a couple of breaths and to feel the front of the hip, the lower back. And then what if that pressing down movement, pressing down through the leg, would start to roll you a bit? So maybe initially it just rolls you onto your side and not completely over. And then you're going to rock back. So experimenting, letting that movement start to move you a little bit more over onto the left side, but taking it in stages. And the next time when I'll roll, I'll let myself roll over to the left side. So I'm going to take my left knee and rest it on top of the right, left thigh on top of the right, and just pausing for a moment here. So now the right side of the body is settling, the right lung, the right ribs, the right waistline, the right hip. And then we had that little psoas movement with the top leg starting to glide forward. So you're going to kind of have the left foot come onto the mat, so stepping off the right, and then it slides, the knee comes to chest, but there's this little movement of having the kind of the foot stay on the mat, which means the knee is going to be hiking up a little bit. And then you slide that leg back behind. And again, the back behind could be bent knee or could be straight leg. And then you move between the two. So the knee coming into hip flexion. And as the leg moves back, it's an extension. If you want to add the arm, it's the arm reaching diagonally up when the leg is back, and then kind of like a curling in, elbow towards the knee or fist towards the knee as the knee comes to your chest. And again, just slow, mindful noticing. We'll do just a couple of more of these. And the next time when the thigh is sliding up, just let the left thigh again rest on top of the right. Take a moment again when everything drops. Feeling the connection to the ground through the right side. For a moment, bringing your mind into that left hip, the top hip. And then lastly, we'll bring in a rolling twist movement for the upper body. So the left hand is starting to reach beyond the right hand. My fingertips are on the ground. They travel up and over, and that movement is rolling me onto the back. And again, feel free to explore whether the elbow is bent or straight. But how can you let yourself really softly curl and uncurl, noticing the movement in the ribs, the rippling movement in the spine, letting also your hips and sacrum, like that they also twist, the pelvis also twists a bit, so I'm not holding it rigid. And just a couple of more times, letting yourself softly roll. And again, think of it like this pulsing through the spine, pulsing for the lungs. And then next time when I'm rolling onto the right side, I'm going to step my left leg just a little bit off the right foot again back behind me, so that when I start to roll now, I can open the left knee up as well. And that movement rocks me onto the back. And then I'll straighten the legs once more into a rebound. So that was our somatic sequence. And I'll give it a couple of breaths here, settling through the back body. And then bringing the awareness to the left side. Feeling sensation, pulsation. Also how the left side settles to the ground. And then for a moment, the feel of the whole body, the feel of the whole body. This light of awareness from the soles of the feet all the way to the ground of the head. And then we'll come to some yin shapes, and similarly we'll do a set of postures for one side, then coming back here and doing it for the opposite side. So I'll start with the twist over to the left. So we're going to hold it now steady without rolling. So as you bring your thighs over to the left, your twist could be two thighs resting on top of each other, right hand stretching out to the right, or twisted roots. So if you enjoy the variation where we cross the top thigh over the other, so the right thigh is wrapping itself around the left, it's deeper. And some sacrums are not so happy with this one. So let yourself real honestly feel into your lower back area and what it prefers. And if there's any propping that you want here, so it could be that you want to have something underneath the knees, for example, or underneath your shoulder, your right shoulder, or underneath your head. So take a little moment. We've kind of juiced up our tissues with some movement. Let yourself now find the stillness, but support yourself in the stillness. And we'll hold it for a couple of minutes. So feeling into that, the heaviness of the hips as it settles, and feel that your thighs, the muscles in your thighs are not holding or gripping. And there's this dropping of the bones of the body. So again, this quality of sleep or relaxation in the body, while our mind, our awareness is present and aware and awake. And sensing from the inside the space around your hips, around your back. I'll also give now more moments of silence, so I won't be guiding as much. So let yourself feel the practice is holding you. And the practice is, yes, partly it's the postures, but also the practice of returning, the awareness to the felt sense, to the feel of the ground, to the feel of the breath. Now give it another breath in, another breath out. And then if you did have your legs wrapped, unwrap them, but stay on your left side. And again, roll the right arm that was open to the right, roll it back. So you're rolled back onto your left side. So we'll take a moment here, a rebound moment here. So again, that feel of the ground under the left side, the left ribs and lung. And then I'll stay on the left side. I'll simply reach the right leg straight towards the back of the mat and then right arm up above. So I'll do like 5-6 breaths in a side body stretch. Simply my lower, the left side stays exactly as it is and the right side stretches. And I'll bring a little bit of a yang in a sense that I'm going to be really reaching through the heel and through the fingertips. So there's a bit of a tension that I feel, these two parts of the body moving to the opposite direction. But of course, always comfortably so not overdoing it. Bringing that breath to the top of the rib. And you can be a little bit leaning towards the ground or towards the ceiling, or being more just completely on the side body. So feel what's more comfortable. Take another breath, reach through the heel. Right heel. And then I'll bring the right hand in front of my chest and I'll start to press myself up. As I press myself up, I'm going to bend into that right knee. So the right knee is now pointing towards the back of the mat. And I'll bring my right hand onto the ground, so circling over towards where my head just was. And so we're coming into another twist now. The belly turns down towards the ground. If you have a bolster, this could be a great use of your bolster under the belly. But as I said, if you don't have one, then you could either stay with your palms down and the twist is happening. I'm going to still try to relax the legs. I feel into the side body, and if you need to bring that knee in, feel free to bring that knee in, or you could also come down onto your elbows. So either bolster or elbows, or just keeping your palms on the ground. And so now we're twisting the belly towards the ground. And again, we'll just hold it for a couple of minutes. Trying to get the shoulders to relax, whichever variation you've chosen. Feeling the weight of the hips. Relaxing your jaw and your eyes. There's the rising and falling of breath. And again, that same quality of where the body is invited to soften and relax. And there's a certain aliveness that comes from being present, locating yourself right here, right now in your body. It's a sense of calm aliveness. Let's take another 3 breaths. And then I'll slowly begin to walk the hands up, and I'll face over the hand off the mat, and I'll face towards where my feet are. I'm going to keep them more or less how they are. If you need to move that right leg a little bit, you'll do. And I'll start to bring that right knee up and down a few times. So as I said, if you need to place that foot in a little bit of a different angle, then do. But I'm finding that external rotation in the right hip. And again, I'm just playing with a very comfortable range. I'm going to let that knee drop down and lift. Do it slowly. Bring your mind into that right hip and just feel into that range there. The knee lifting and the left leg stays exactly where it is for now. And for the next movement, if you need to wiggle around a little bit, if you don't have space on your right side, feel free to do that. But I'm going to lift that right knee up, and then I'm going to let the pelvis move and drop everything over to the right side. And then I'll basically go and take a deer pose over that right hip. So I'll stay with that right side. So which means that I might keep the legs exactly as they are and fold forward. I'll just turn around so you see what I'm doing, but you can stay faced wherever you are. You know this one, all of you. I've used it a lot in the classes. You can also change where your heels are. You could bring that back heel in, you could bring that front heel in. So find sensation in the right bum. So your torso could be over that right knee. You could also walk a little bit over towards that right foot. How can you position yourself so you feel a mild sensation in the right buttock, the outer thigh, maybe something in the lower back region, and you might be feeling something around that left hip depending how you've positioned that leg. So coming into a deer pose. And if you can, then you can be just rotated to the side, so you might be facing away from your screen, and that's fine. I've been really loving to not stick with the front and back, but to let ourselves orient to different directions. So also part of that wood element theme and springtime about change, maybe trying something new. And once more, we'll hold it here for a couple of minutes, so in a yin way. As we soften and as we really let ourselves kind of feel the effect of gravity. And staying at an edge that is not too intense. And then letting yourself pay attention to the rising and falling of sensation. Similarly, like you would pay attention to the rising and falling of the sensation of the breath, any other sensations that arise. And then, of course, part of that listening is recognizing when do you maybe need to change something about the shape. So let that listening be responsive, but begin to differentiate responsive from being reactive. And again, we access again those qualities of calm aliveness. Different posture, different circumstance, but it all comes down to like, how do we resource ourselves here? How do we presence ourselves here? And then I'll give it another breath. We'll come to one more shape for that hip. So I'm going to walk myself up, and I'm going to let myself come onto my back. So one way I could come down is I'm going to come face towards where my head was. I'm going to slide the right hand down, and then from that right side I'll curl onto my back, and then I'll bring that same right ankle over the left knee. Now I'm going to make a little bit of space before I come into this posture. I'm going to make a little bit of space on my right side. There's going to be an option for a little bit of a creative curling from here. You might not want to take it, but just in case you're ready for that, I'm going to scoop myself just a little bit over to the left so that I have that room there on the right side. And then taking the threading of the needle pose, so taking the right hand from the center, left hand from the outside. So I'll stay stimulating that same area, outer buttock, the buttock, and the outer thigh. And so an option is that you'll stay here and you skip what I'm going to offer next, and just tune in for a moment. So I've been bringing in a bit of like weird transitions, and you might say weird. I think of them as playful transitions, as that is the energy of the springtime. It's really kind of this a bit of like our childhood energy when we get curious, and there's creativity and playfulness, and all of that is part of the wood element in springtime. But I emphasize always in classes that your inner season might not always align with the outer season, and so you might be in your winter and wanting to just chill out, and so I want you to honor that if that's the case. And so hopefully you can see the screen. I'll kind of show you what my idea of fun is, and then you can decide whether you're going to stay here. And what you can do is, while we curl, you could stay here, and at one point you could turn this into a twist at any point where you want to kind of explore more the outer thigh line and not so much the hip. Then that could be an option for you. So I'll first show you what I had in mind for the transition, and then I'll come back here and we'll do it together. So I'm aiming to go into a cat-tail twist. And so for that, I'm going to take my left hand, hold it to the little toe side of the right foot, and I'm going to try to curl it so that I get the left foot free from underneath the right. So I'm going to play with that, and then I'm going to start to roll onto my right side. I'm going to scoop, so I'm holding onto that back foot, and the top knee, which is my left knee, is coming up across. And so now I'm in a cat-tail twist, and I can play here to stay more on my side, or I can roll more onto my back. Most likely your top knee is going to lift up. And then at one point I'll offer here, oh, what if I continue rolling? So I straighten that right leg and I roll all the way onto my belly, and I come into a quad stretch, pinning that right hand underneath and right heel towards the bum. That was my idea of fun. So if after all this you go, not my cup of tea, say stay here, or come at one point into the threading the needle twist, and we'll join you here in a moment. And if you want to do the curling, hold on to the little toe side of your right foot, and then see if you can unhook the left leg. So suddenly the left leg is in front of the right, and then start to roll onto your right side. There's going to be a moment here where you need to kind of scoop your bottom leg, your right leg, a little bit more back behind you, and playing with, as I said, being more on your side or more on your back. And we'll pause here, and this is where a blanket under your head might be really useful. Often here the head tips back, and if you want to place something under that top knee, that left knee, if you have your bolster still handy or a pillow, then you could support that top knee. And so we're coming into a twist with a bit of a thigh stretch, so that you might feel it in front of that right thigh. And it adds a bit of a back bend into the twist as well. And so I'll give it a couple of more breaths here. And then again, option to stay here, or what if you keep rolling? So I'll straighten into that left leg as I roll onto my belly. The right hand gets pinned underneath, so I'm doing this crushed wing position for the right shoulder. And then I'm holding with the left hand onto the right foot, drawing it into the bum, and then I'm going to try to get my right hip really heavy towards the ground, so I'm not lifting that right hip. And so there's this quad stretch, and there's a shoulder stretch back of the shoulder. I'll just give it a couple of breaths here, and you might be somewhere completely different. And then I'll start to roll into the cat tail position. So that meant that I roll towards my back, sliding the left knee up. And then I'm starting to roll onto my back. I'm going to start to try to get that left leg again behind the right. And then I'm back in the threading the needle, and just for a couple of breaths, I'm going to take the left foot down onto the mat and then pivot the left knee over to the left, and letting the right foot drop onto the ground with the right knee pointing up. So if some of you maybe are already here, I'll just take a couple of breaths here, joining you. So now we've done many different types of twists. And springtime often is also that time of cleansing our liver. So the twist can be like a nice squeezing and soaking of all the internal organs. I'll slowly come back to the center, letting the legs drop and taking a rebound. So now a bunch of stuff we've done. Again, one side, but it's the whole spine has been moving, so you might feel it on both sides, right and left. But there might be a sense of imbalance. And that's fine. Just let yourself be aware. And again, the body relaxed and calm, dropping. And then feeling the interior alive, pulsating, throbbing. So the sense of the subtle body perhaps becoming more palpable and known. And then we'll journey through the opposite side. So again, maybe now it's a bit more enjoyable as you know where we're going. So we're going to start with a simple twist over to the right side. So I'm going to take myself curled over to the right, and then either two thighs just resting on top of each other, or left thigh, top thigh wraps around the bottom thigh. Again, something underneath the knees would make it milder for the back. And then pausing. So let's give it another 3-4 breaths. What can be softened? What can drop? What can release? And then the awareness could still be like this light that travels, or warmth that travels through the interior and kind of lights up, sensitizes the feel of the body, creating this stronger mind-body connection. And then I'll start to roll over onto the right side, so unhook the legs if they were hooked, curl over and pause. So we'll take that
very short rebound here, but simply on the right side. And again, I'm just connecting to the parts of the body now that are resting, the quality of resting through the right side, the feel of the ground. And we added a side stretch, so the left leg is going to straighten and I'm going to press through the heel, and then the left hand is going to move the opposite direction. And again, you don't have to overly press, so find the right amount of tension that starts to create a sensation of that sideline, that sensation of connection, continuity through that sideline. Take a breath into that connection there. Maybe a little bit more fully. Let it slowly release. As you're releasing, soften the elbow, soften the knee. Bring the left hand onto the ground. As you walk up, already turn towards where your head just was and bending into that left knee. So taking the legs into that 90 degree position, which doesn't have to be exactly that. And as you rotate towards the ground, again, see if you want your bolster. So then bring the bolster in or settle down onto your forearms. Or you could also stay up on your palms. And then find ease here. Let the gravity pull the bones and the muscle, and keep sensing the space in the body, the breath in the body, sensation, presence, aliveness. Again, about 3 more breaths. And I'll begin to slowly walk the hands back. I keep the legs exactly as they are, but I just turn towards them. And if you need to slide them a little bit to feel comfortable, then do. And then I'll bring my awareness to that left leg, left hip, left knee, and I'll begin to open and close it, so to speak. But everything else stays exactly as it is, so I'm isolating that movement into the left hip. And again, it doesn't have to be that foot stays exactly where it is. Feel into that range. Maybe you can sense, like my left is very different from the right. It actually is more open than the right, so you might sense also some of those asymmetries that all of us have in the body. Then next time when I'm starting to lift, then I'm letting the pelvis move. So as the knee comes to its maximum limit, I'm going to let it draw the pelvis over, and then I'm going to let it rock me over onto that left side. So now deer pose on the left side. So again, if you don't mind facing in a bit of a different direction, then start to set up your legs and your torso in such a way that works for that left hip. So I often bring that back heel in, but it's also equally okay to just keep the legs in that 90 degree angle. That back knee could also come forward. So there's many options here that you can play with to just find the sensation that works for your hip. If you want to bring something under your elbows, your bolster, something under your forehead, learn to recognize in your own body what works. How can you take care of yourself? What type of support do you need today in this moment? And then once the physical shape has been found, then you can again begin to presence yourself. And maybe once more those qualities that I brought in already in the Yoga Nidra, the quality of rest in the body or relaxation in the body, or that can also translate to as a sense of safety. That's when our body releases a sense of safety. But it's different from sleep, as we are staying aware and present with our direct experience as it arises. So combined, creating this sense of calm aliveness. Take another breath here, and we'll stay with that left hip, but we'll change our relationship to gravity. So I'm gonna walk myself up. I'm nicely kind of facing in the right direction so that I can start to kind of release myself onto that left side, and then rolling onto my back and bringing that left ankle over the right knee. And then I'm already scooping myself slightly over towards the right, so I have on my left side, I have some space for my little exploration. And if you not coming into that, then you can just stay as you are and coming into the threading the needle.
So now you kind of know what the options are. And so you can decide differently on this side. You don't have to do everything exactly the same. I'll give myself a couple of more moments here in the hip stretch. And then same as last time, you can stay here, you could stay here, you could take the threading the needle, twist as you drop the right thigh over to the right and left foot onto the ground, or taking with your left hand hold of the, right hand little toe side of the left foot, and I'm going to try to uncross so that I have the right leg in front, and then I'm going to roll over onto my which side is that? Left side, and coming into the cattail, so a little bit of wiggle so that I can get that bottom thigh a little bit back behind me into that extension, and play around, rolling a little bit onto your side, so more a quad stretch and a shoulder stretch maybe, or rolling more onto your back, creating a little bit more of a twist, putting something under that top knee, something under your head. So again, it is a twist that for some bodies it feels good, and for other bodies it just kind of feels a very unnecessary tangling. And then there was my extra curiosity from here. What if I keep rolling? So the bottom hand, left hand, I'll just extend it straight, and I'll start to slide the top knee, right knee straight, and that rolls me onto the belly. I'll kind of adjust the bottom hand so it's pinned underneath me. We call it the crushed wings, and then I'm holding onto the left foot. Hard to I'm so tangled here that hard to say which is what is right and what is left. I'm gonna let my left hip get heavy, so the foot that I'm holding, I'm trying not to lift that hip up. I'm gonna let it be heavy and drop towards the ground. And then I'll roll back to cat tail for a couple of breaths. Again, feel free to move in your own way, in your own way through this sequence. And then I'll start to do my little untangling or tangling back. So I'm rolling onto my back while I'm bringing that left thigh again in front. So for a moment I'll be back in the threading the needle. And then I liked to finish by bringing the right foot down, but keeping the left ankle where it is, and then starting to drop the right knee to the right so the left foot can come down onto the ground. The left knee points up. And so I'll do this one more here, which more gets to the outer thigh and the IT band there, letting both shoulders drop. Couple of more breaths. And then I'll roll
into the back and come into a little bit of a longer rebound combined Shavasana, but I'll have us here only for like 4 minutes or so as we running out of time and we had a long rest in the beginning. So if you want to stay for longer, then maybe silence your device or even leave the meeting, or if you're doing it from a recording, consider a longer rest here. So I'll hold space for about 3-4 minutes as you now find that restful position for yourself and the support and warmth, and letting yourself feel now the right side and the left side. The right side settling into the ground, the left side of the body. Feeling the back line of the body and really connect that to that sense of support and holding. And then feel the front side of the body, sensing receptivity, spaciousness, porousness. Backside like ground and earth and matter. Front side more like sky-like, porous and vast and open and spacious. And then there's two of these qualities meeting, present at the same time. We could also think of it as matter and spirit meeting, present at the same time. With Soma and Psyche intertwined, combined. Resting here as whole. All parts of your beingness. From the grossest to the most subtle. Yoked. And then really, really feel, do you want to stay for a little bit longer? Or if you are feeling that it's time to move, can you make this transition slow, continuous, of the rest as you awaken, continuing sense of ease, a continuation of that, maybe that sense of unity. And so if you are rising, if you have risen, take a moment in your seat so that we can sense here once more the body relaxed,
So even if you have come more upright, still kind of giving your weight to the ground. And then that quality of awakeness, that springtime buds opening, sense of aliveness and presence. Those two qualities present at the same time. And if there is a gesture that you like to finish your practice with that has some meaning, prayer hands or touching your hands somewhere on the body, bring that gesture in. I like to bow as always. My bow is in gratitude. My bow as a reminder for me to be humble. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.